You know what they say about curiosity in cats? Well, I'm still breathing, but barely. The name's Jake Morrison, and 3 weeks ago I thought my biggest problem was debugging code for insurance companies. Turns out my wife Lisa had been debugging our marriage by systematically removing me from the equation. It started with a credit card statement. Not the kind of thing that usually gets my heart racing, but this one had entries that turned my coffee bitter. 4 charges at the Riverside Grand Hotel, premium suites, champagne service, all on our joint account. All on days when Lisa claimed she was working late at Morrison & Associates marketing firm. Working late, I muttered, staring at the paper. Yeah, working something. I'm not the jealous type. Never have been. When you've spent 15 years fixing other people's computer problems, you develop a certain patience with human stupidity. But this wasn't stupidity. This was calculated. The receipts painted a picture I didn't want to see. February 14th. Valentine's Day, when Lisa said she had a client dinner. March 3rd. Our anniversary, when she claimed food poisoning. March 15th. The night she said her sister needed help moving furniture. Each receipt showed 2 guests, room service for 2, spa treatments for 2. I grabbed my laptop and started digging. If there's one thing 20 years in IT taught me, it's that everything leaves a digital footprint. Bank records, hotel loyalty programs, email accounts, they all tell stories if you know where to look. The Riverside Grand had security cameras. Their system wasn't exactly Fort Knox. A few social engineering calls, claiming to be investigating credit card fraud, and I had access to their guest logs. Lisa Morrison and Miles Crawford, her boss, had been regular visitors for 6 months. Miles Crawford, the golden boy of Morrison & Associates. 42 years old, drives a BMW, wears suits that cost more than my monthly salary, the kind of guy who calls everyone champ and thinks he invented confidence. I sat in my home office, surrounded by computer screens and empty coffee cups, building a case like I was preparing for war. Because that's exactly what this was. The hotel's digital records showed everything: keycard access logs, parking garage timestamps, even the minibar charges, and let me tell you, they had expensive taste in champagne. My phone buzzed. Lisa's text, "Working late again tonight. Don't wait up." I checked the calendar. Thursday night, their usual night at the Riverside Grand, according to the pattern I'd mapped out. "Sure thing, honey," I typed back. "Work hard." But I wasn't staying home. I grabbed my camera, my laptop, and what remained of my dignity. Time to see exactly what kind of work my wife was doing. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. The Riverside Grand sits downtown like a monument to better times. Built in the 1920s, renovated in the 2000s, it's where politicians hold fundraisers and rich people pretend to care about charity. The lobby smells like money and lies. I positioned myself in the hotel bar, nursing a whiskey and watching the elevators. At 7:30 p.m., Lisa walked in wearing a dress I'd never seen before. Red silk, probably cost more than our mortgage payment. She looked beautiful and completely unfamiliar. Miles appeared 5 minutes later, all smiles and wandering hands. They didn't even try to be discreet. He ordered champagne, the expensive stuff from the minibar receipts, and they disappeared into the elevator like they owned the place. I waited an hour, then approached the front desk with my best customer service smile. "Excuse me, I'm supposed to meet my business partner, Miles Crawford. Could you ring his room?" The desk clerk, a kid who looked fresh out of college, checked his computer. "Mr. Crawford in the penthouse suite? I'll connect you." Penthouse suite. Of course. Instead of taking the call, I walked away. I had what I needed. Room number, confirmation they were there together, and a burning desire to make them both regret every moment of the last 6 months. Back home, I opened a new document on my computer and started typing. Not an angry letter or a dramatic confrontation, something much more dangerous. A plan. Lisa came home at midnight, claiming she'd been reviewing marketing proposals. She kissed my forehead like nothing had changed, like she hadn't spent the evening in another man's arms with money from our joint account. "How was work?" I asked. "Exhausting," she said, already heading upstairs. "Miles is such a demanding boss." "I'll bet he is." That night, while Lisa slept beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. 20 years of marriage, and it had come to this. She thought I was just her boring IT husband, too focused on computers to notice what was happening in the real world. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The thing about being an IT consultant is that people underestimate you. They see the polo shirts and the sensible cars and assume you're harmless. What they don't realize is that in the digital age, information is power, and I'd been accumulating power for 2 decades. Friday morning, Lisa left for work with her usual kiss on the cheek and promised to try to get home early. I waited until her car disappeared around the corner, then got to work. First stop, Ed's boxing gym. Not the kind of place you'd expect to find a computer guy, but I'd been training there since college. Ed Kowalski, the owner, used to fight professionally before a shoulder injury ended his career. Now he trains amateurs and serves as the neighborhood's unofficial therapist. "You look like someone stole your lunch money," Ed said when I walked in. "Worse, someone's been stealing my wife." Ed stopped wrapping his hands and gave me his full attention. In 20 years of friendship, he'd never seen me rattled. I laid out the evidence. The hotel receipts, the timestamps, the pattern of lies. Ed listened without interrupting, his weathered face growing darker with each detail. "So, what's the plan?" he asked when I finished. "I need a favor. You still have contacts from your fighting days?" "Depends what kind of contacts you're talking about." "The kind who know how to find information that people don't want found." Ed grinned. It wasn't a pleasant expression. "I know a guy, Tony Ricci. Used to be a private investigator before he retired. Owes me a favor from way back." Within 2 hours, Tony Ricci was sitting in my living room, looking like Central Casting's idea of a private detective. 60 years old, gray stubble, eyes that had seen too much. "Your wife's having an affair," he said after reviewing my evidence. "Question is, what do you want to do about it?" "I want to destroy them both. Legally, professionally, socially. I want them to regret ever thinking they could play me for a fool." Tony nodded approvingly. "Now you're talking my language. But this kind of operation requires patience. You can't just storm in swinging. You need to be smart about it." He was right. Lisa and Miles thought they were dealing with a naive husband who'd quietly accept his fate. They were about to discover that the quiet guy in IT had been paying attention all along. Tony's plan was elegant in its simplicity. We'd document everything, build an airtight case, then strike when they least expected it. But first, we needed more evidence. "The hotel's security system is decent, but not perfect," I explained. "I can get us access to their archived footage, and 6 months of comings and goings." "That's illegal," Tony pointed out. "Only if we get caught." That weekend, while Lisa attended her sister's birthday party, or so she claimed, I paid a visit to the Riverside Grand. The hotel's IT infrastructure was managed by a company I'd done contract work for. A few phone calls, some technical jargon about system updates, and I had remote access to their servers. The security footage was a goldmine. 6 months of Lisa and Miles arriving separately, leaving together, checking into the same suite. The timestamps matched perfectly with Lisa's late work nights and client dinners. But the real treasure was in their email accounts. Miles used the hotel's business center computers, and like most people, he'd saved his passwords. His correspondence with Lisa was explicit, romantic, and absolutely damning. "Can't wait to see you tonight, beautiful. The penthouse suite is waiting." Jake suspects nothing. He's too busy with his computers to pay attention to anything else. After the divorce, we can be together properly. Just need to be patient a little longer. Divorce. They were planning my future without bothering to consult me. How thoughtful. I printed everything, organized it chronologically, and created a digital archive with multiple backups. Then I called my lawyer. Patricia Henley had handled my business contracts for years. She was sharp, ruthless, and had a reputation for making opposing counsel cry. Perfect for what I had in mind. "Jake," she said when I walked into her office Monday morning, "you look terrible." "I feel worse. I need to file for divorce, and I want to make it hurt." Patricia raised an eyebrow. "That's not usually your style." I handed her the evidence folder. "It is now." She spent an hour reviewing the documents, photographs, and email printouts. Her expression grew more predatory with each page. "This is comprehensive," she said finally. "Almost professionally done. I'm a professional, just not the kind they expected." "What exactly do you want to accomplish here?" "I want Lisa to lose everything, the house, the savings, her reputation, and I want Miles Crawford to understand that actions have consequences." Patricia smiled. It was the kind of smile that made insurance companies settle out of court. "I can work with this, but you need to be prepared for them to fight back. This won't be clean or quick. I'm counting on it." That afternoon, I implemented phase 1 of my plan. I created a fake social media account and started following Lisa's friends, coworkers, and family members, not to harass them, but to understand the social dynamics at Morrison and Associates. What I discovered was fascinating. Lisa wasn't the only one having workplace relationships. The company was a hotbed of office politics, favoritism, and ethical violations. Miles had a pattern of promoting women he was involved with, then discarding them when he got bored. Lisa was just his latest conquest, and from what I could tell, she had no idea about the others. I also learned something interesting about Miles himself. His LinkedIn profile claimed an MBA from Northwestern, but a little digging revealed he'd never graduated. His previous job references were questionable, and there were gaps in his employment history that didn't add up. Miles Crawford wasn't just stealing my wife. He was a fraud in every sense of the word. By Wednesday, I had enough information to end both their careers and reputations, but I wasn't ready to pull the trigger yet. I wanted them to feel secure, confident in their deception. The fall would be so much more satisfying that way. Lisa came home that night humming, clearly in a good mood. She'd probably spent the afternoon planning our divorce with her lover, dividing up assets she thought I'd never fight for. "Good day at work?" I asked. "The best," she said, kissing my cheek. "Miles says I'm up for a promotion." "I'll bet you are," I thought. But I just smiled and nodded like the oblivious husband she thought I was. "That's wonderful, honey. You deserve it." She had no idea how much she was about to deserve. Thursday morning arrived gray and drizzling, the kind of weather that makes everything look dirty. Perfect for what I had planned. Lisa left for work wearing her confident smile and a new outfit I didn't recognize. Designer labels, expensive jewelry, all purchased with money from our joint accounts while she planned to leave me for another man. I waited 30 minutes, then made my move. The Morrison & Associates building sits downtown, all glass and steel, trying to look more important than it actually is. I'd visited Lisa's office plenty of times over the years, smiled at her coworkers, made small talk at company parties. Everyone knew Jake Morrison, the quiet IT husband who fixed their computers and stayed in the background. Today, that reputation was going to work in my favor. I parked across the street and called the main number. "Morrison & Associates, this is Jennifer." "Hi, Jennifer. This is Jake Morrison, Lisa's husband. I'm having trouble with our home network, and Lisa mentioned that Miles might be able to help. Is he available?" "Oh, hi, Jake. Let me check his calendar." 2 minutes later, I was connected to Miles Crawford's office. "Jake!" Miles's voice boomed through the phone, all fake enthusiasm. "How can I help you, buddy?" "Buddy." The man sleeping with my wife was calling me buddy. "Annie, I'm having some network issues at home," I said. "Lisa thought you might have some suggestions." "Absolutely. Why don't you come by the office? I've got some time this afternoon." Perfect. Miles wanted to play the helpful boss, probably get some sick satisfaction from looking me in the eye while he planned to steal my wife. I was happy to oblige. I spent the morning making final preparations. Tony Ricci had provided me with some interesting equipment, a digital recorder small enough to fit in my shirt pocket, and a device that could clone cell phone data when placed within 3 feet of the target. At 2 p.m., I walked into Morrison & Associates like I owned the place. "Jake!" Miles appeared in the lobby, all smiles and firm handshakes. He looked exactly like what he was, a middle-aged man trying too hard to seem successful. Expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of watch that screams, "I'm compensating for something." "Thanks for seeing me," I said. "I really appreciate it." "Anything for Lisa's husband. She's told me so much about you." "I'll bet she has." Miles led me to his office, a corner space with windows overlooking the city. The walls were covered with awards and certificates, including that fake MBA from Northwestern. His desk held family photos, an ex-wife and 2 kids he barely saw, according to my research. "So what's the problem with your network?" he asked, settling into his leather chair. I launched into a detailed technical explanation, making it sound complicated enough to keep him interested, but simple enough that he could pretend to understand. While I talked, I placed my phone on his desk, positioning it near his computer. The cloning device worked silently, copying his email accounts, text messages, and calendar data. Within 5 minutes, I had complete access to his digital life. "You know," Miles said when I finished, "you should consider upgrading your router. I just got a new one myself. Top of the line." "That sounds expensive." "Worth every penny. Of course, my situation is a little different. I've got some extra income coming in." He was bragging about the money he made while sleeping with my wife. The arrogance was breathtaking. "Lisa mentioned you might be expanding the business," I said. Miles's eyes lit up. "Big changes coming, Jake. Really big changes. Some of us are going to do very well in the next few months." "That's great. Lisa deserves success." "She certainly does. Your wife is very talented." The way he said it made my skin crawl, but I kept my expression neutral. Just the boring IT husband, too clueless to catch the innuendo. We talked for another 20 minutes, Miles growing more comfortable and arrogant with each passing moment. He actually showed me photos from a recent business trip to Chicago, the same trip Lisa had claimed was a solo conference. "Beautiful city," he said, pointing to a picture of him and Lisa at an expensive restaurant. "Great for networking." I'm sure Lisa learned a lot. Oh, she did. She's a very quick learner. By the time I left his office, I had everything I needed. His phone data, his computer files, and most importantly, his complete confidence that I was no threat to his plans. Lisa was waiting in the lobby when I came out, probably having received a text from Miles about my visit. "Honey," she said, all surprise and innocence, "what are you doing here?" "Miles was helping me with our network problems. He's very knowledgeable." "He certainly is," she said, exchanging a look with her lover that they thought I missed. "I should get going," I said. "Let you get back to work." Lisa kissed my cheek, the same casual gesture she'd been using to cover her guilt for months. "See you at home?" But I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to Patricia's office and handed her a USB drive containing Miles's complete digital life. "This is everything," I said. "Emails, texts, financial records, calendar entries, 6 months of evidence." Patricia plugged in the drive and started scrolling through the files. Her expression grew more satisfied with each screen. "Jake, this is incredible. You've documented everything. The affair, the financial improprieties, even some questionable business practices." "What kind of business practices?" "Miles has been using company resources for personal expenses. The hotel charges, the trips, even some of Lisa's new wardrobe, it's all being billed to the company as business expenses." That was interesting. Corporate fraud wasn't something I'd been looking for, but it was certainly something I could use. "What's our next move?" I asked. "We file for divorce tomorrow morning. Full asset protection, adultery claims, and a request for punitive damages. But first, we need to secure your financial position." Patricia was already thinking 3 steps ahead, which is why I'd hired her. "What do you mean?" "Tonight, you're going to empty your joint accounts and transfer everything to a separate account in your name only. It's perfectly legal since the money is half yours anyway, and it prevents them from hiding assets before the divorce proceedings begin." "Won't that tip them off?" "Not if we time it right. They're planning another hotel visit tomorrow night, according to their pattern. We'll file the papers Friday morning while they're distracted, then serve them both at the office." I liked the sound of that. Public humiliation was exactly what they deserved. That evening, I sat at my computer and systematically transferred our savings, checking accounts, and investment funds to a new account Lisa couldn't access. 20 years of marriage, and it all came down to mouse clicks and electronic transfers. Lisa came home late, claiming another client dinner. She was glowing with satisfaction, probably from planning my future with another man. "How was dinner?" I asked. "Productive. Very productive." She went upstairs to shower, humming the same tune she'd been humming all week, the sound of a woman who thought she was getting away with something. I opened my laptop and reviewed the final details of my plan. Tomorrow, Lisa Morrison and Miles Crawford were going to discover that the quiet IT husband had been paying attention all along, and they were going to regret every moment of the last 6 months. Friday morning broke clear and cold, the kind of day that makes everything look sharp and unforgiving. Lisa left for work early, claiming a breakfast meeting with potential clients. According to Miles's calendar, which I now had complete access to, they were actually meeting at the hotel restaurant before spending the day planning their future together. Our future, they thought. They were about to learn otherwise. Patricia and I met at the courthouse at 8 a.m. sharp. The divorce papers were comprehensive, detailing every hotel visit, every fraudulent expense, every lie Lisa had told over the past 6 months. The asset freeze would prevent them from hiding money, and the adultery claims would ensure Lisa got nothing in the settlement. "Are you ready for this?" Patricia asked as we walked up the courthouse steps. "I've been ready for months." The filing process took 2 hours. By 10 a.m., Lisa Morrison and Miles Crawford were officially defendants in a divorce proceeding that would destroy both their personal and professional lives. "Now for the fun part," Patricia said, handing me a thick manila envelope. "Service of process." I'd insisted on serving the papers myself. After 6 months of lies and humiliation, I wanted to see their faces when reality came crashing down. Morrison and Associates was buzzing with its usual mid-morning energy when I walked into the lobby. Jennifer at reception smiled and waved, completely unaware that I was about to detonate a bomb in the middle of their workplace. "Hi, Jake. Here to see Lisa?" "Actually, I need to see both Lisa and Miles. It's important." "They're in the conference room with some clients. Big presentation today?" "Perfect. An audience would make this even better." I walked through the familiar hallways, past cubicles filled with people who had no idea their company was about to become the center of a scandal. The conference room was at the end of the hall, its glass walls offering a perfect view of the presentation inside. Lisa stood at the front of the room, gesturing at charts and graphs on a large screen. She looked confident, professional, completely in control. Miles sat at the conference table with 3 potential clients, nodding approvingly at his lover's performance. They were presenting a campaign for family-oriented products. The irony was perfect. I knocked on the glass door and walked in without waiting for permission. "Sorry to interrupt," I said, my voice carrying clearly through the room, "but I have some documents that need immediate attention." Lisa's face went white. She recognized the legal-sized envelope in my hands, even if she didn't understand what it meant yet. "Jake," she said, her voice strained, "we're in the middle of a presentation. This won't take long." I walked to the head of the table and placed the envelope in front of Miles. "Miles Crawford, you're being served with papers in the divorce proceeding of Morrison versus Morrison. You're named as a co-respondent in adultery charges." Miles stared at the envelope like it might explode. "I don't understand." "It's simple. You've been sleeping with my wife for 6 months, using company funds to pay for hotel rooms and romantic getaways. Now you're going to pay for it in court." The silence in the room was deafening. The 3 clients looked confused and uncomfortable. Lisa gripped the edge of the presentation table, her knuckles white with tension. "Jake, please," she whispered. "Not here." "Where would you prefer? The hotel penthouse suite where you've been planning our divorce? Or maybe Miles's office where he's been bragging about his extra income?" I turned to the stunned clients. "Gentlemen, you might want to reconsider doing business with this company. As you can see, they have some ethical issues to work through." The clients gathered their materials and left without a word, probably planning to tell everyone they knew about the scene they'd just witnessed. Miles finally opened the envelope and scanned the papers. His face went from confusion to anger to fear in the span of 30 seconds. "This is harassment," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "No, this is justice. Harassment was what you did to my marriage." Lisa found her voice. "Jake, we need to talk privately." "We're past private conversations, Lisa. You made this public when you started parading around town with your boss, spending our money on romantic getaways." I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. 6 months of surveillance photos, hotel receipts, and email printouts. Should I show everyone the pictures, or would you prefer to read the emails out loud? I particularly enjoyed the one where you called me too boring to notice anything. Miles stood up, trying to reclaim some authority. "You need to leave. This is a private workplace." "Actually, it's about to become very public. See, I've sent copies of all this evidence to the company's board of directors, their major clients, and a few local reporters who specialize in business scandals." That wasn't entirely true, but the fear in their eyes told me it was effective. "You can't do this," Lisa said, tears starting to form. "I already did. The asset freeze goes into effect this afternoon, so I hope you enjoyed spending our money while you could. The house is mine, the savings accounts are mine, and your reputation is about to become very public property." I walked toward the door, then turned back for one final observation. "Oh, and Miles, you might want to update your resume. Something tells me Morrison and Associates is going to need new leadership very soon." The rest of the office had gone silent, everyone pretending to work while straining to hear what was happening in the conference room. Word would spread through the building within an hour, and through their professional network by the end of the day. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in months. The house looked different now that it was truly mine again, free from the contamination of Lisa's lies and betrayal. My phone rang as I was making coffee. Tony Ricci's number. "How did it go?" he asked. "Better than expected. They never saw it coming." That's the beauty of underestimation. People think they know you, so they stop paying attention. What's next? Now we wait. They'll try to fight back, probably hire their own lawyers, maybe attempt some damage control. But you've got them cornered, and cornered animals make stupid mistakes. Tony was right. By evening, my phone was buzzing with calls from Lisa's friends and family, all wanting to know what really happened. I let them go to voicemail. The truth would come out in court, where it mattered. Lisa came home around 9 p.m., looking like she'd aged 10 years in one day. Her eyes were red from crying, her professional composure completely shattered. "We need to talk," she said. "No, we don't. You need to pack your things and find somewhere else to stay. This is my house now." "Jake, please. I know I made mistakes, but we can work through this." "Mistakes? You spent 6 months planning to leave me while spending my money on another man. That's not a mistake, Lisa. That's a choice." She tried tears, then anger, then bargaining. None of it worked. I'd had 6 months to prepare for this conversation, and I wasn't interested in her excuses. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked finally. "That's not my problem anymore. Maybe Miles has room at his place. Oh, wait, he's probably too busy explaining to his board of directors why he's been embezzling company funds." Lisa packed 2 suitcases and left without another word. I watched her car disappear into the night, taking with it 20 years of marriage and any illusions I'd had about the woman I thought I knew. The house felt empty but clean, like after a long illness finally breaks. I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my home office, surrounded by the computers and cables that had given me the tools to reclaim my life. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and court dates and public scrutiny. But tonight, for the first time in months, I was alone in my own house, free from lies and betrayal. It felt like victory. The weekend passed in a strange calm, like the eye of a hurricane. I knew Lisa and Miles were scrambling, probably hiring lawyers and trying to figure out how much I actually knew. The answer, of course, was everything. Monday morning brought the first counterattack. Patricia called at 7 a.m. "They've hired Davidson and Associates," she said. "Big firm, expensive lawyers. They're claiming harassment and emotional distress." "Let them claim whatever they want. We have evidence." "They're also trying to get a restraining order, saying you've been stalking them," I laughed. "Stalking them with their own credit card receipts?" "That's essentially what I told their lawyer. The restraining order hearing is Wednesday. Are you ready for this to get ugly?" It's been ugly for 6 months. Now it's just honest. Tuesday brought more developments. Ed called from the gym with interesting news. "Miles showed up this morning," he said. "Tried to act like nothing happened, but word's already spread. Nobody wanted to work out near him." "Did he say anything?" "Kept muttering about crazy husbands and invasion of privacy. Real victim mentality. Then he tried to cancel his membership, but I told him we don't give refunds to adulterers." I appreciated Ed's loyalty, but the real satisfaction came that afternoon when Tony Ricci called with an update on his investigation into Miles's background. "You're going to love this," Tony said. "Remember those employment gaps I found? Turns out Miles was fired from his last 2 jobs for the same thing: inappropriate relationships with subordinates and misuse of company funds. How did Morrison and Associates miss that in their background check? They didn't do one. Miles was hired based on a recommendation from a board member who owed him a favor. The whole thing was a setup from the beginning. This was better than I'd hoped. Miles wasn't just a cheating boss. He was a serial predator who'd been using the same playbook for years. There's more," Tony continued. "I found 3 other women at Morrison and Associates who've had relationships with Miles over the past 2 years. All of them got promotions. All of them eventually got pushed out when he moved on to someone new. Are they willing to talk? 2 of them are. They've been waiting for someone to expose him. Wednesday's restraining order hearing was a joke. Lisa and Miles sat with their expensive lawyers, trying to look like victims, while Patricia systematically destroyed their credibility. "Your Honor," Patricia began, "Mr. Morrison discovered his wife's adultery through credit card statements and hotel receipts. Documents he had every legal right to access as a joint account holder. There was no stalking, no harassment, only a husband uncovering his wife's systematic deception. Their lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Rebecca Davidson, tried to paint me as an obsessive husband who'd invaded their privacy. Mr. Morrison conducted illegal surveillance, hacked into private email accounts, and publicly humiliated my clients in their workplace." Patricia smiled. "The emails in question were accessed through Mr. Crawford's own computer, which he left unsecured in a public business center. As for public humiliation, that was a natural consequence of their public adultery." The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, reviewed the evidence with obvious distaste. "I see hotel receipts paid for with marital funds, emails discussing the affair, and a pattern of deception spanning 6 months," she said. "I also see a husband who used legal methods to uncover his wife's adultery. The request for a restraining order is denied." Lisa looked like she was going to be sick. Miles just stared at his hands, probably calculating how much this was going to cost him. But the real fireworks came Thursday morning, when Morrison and Associates held an emergency board meeting to discuss Miles's future with the company. I wasn't invited, obviously, but Tony had cultivated sources inside the company who kept us informed. The 2 women who'd been victimized by Miles's pattern of behavior had come forward, along with documentation of his financial improprieties. The meeting lasted 4 hours. Miles was terminated immediately, his access to company accounts revoked, and a forensic audit was ordered to determine the full extent of his misconduct. Lisa, as his most recent victim and co-conspirator, was placed on administrative leave pending the results of the investigation. "They're both finished," Patricia told me that afternoon. Miles will never work in marketing again, and Lisa's reputation in the industry is destroyed. What about the divorce settlement? With the adultery evidence and the asset freeze, she'll be lucky to get her personal belongings. The house, the savings, the retirement accounts, it's all yours. That evening, I sat in my reclaimed home office, reviewing the week's events. In 5 days, I'd gone from betrayed husband to complete victor. Lisa and Miles had lost their jobs, their reputations, and their future together. My phone rang, Lisa's number. "Jake, please," she said when I answered. Her voice was broken, desperate. "I'm staying at a motel. I have nothing left." "You have exactly what you chose," I replied. "You chose Miles over our marriage. You chose lies over honesty. You chose to spend our money on your affair. These are the consequences of your choices." "I made a mistake. People make mistakes." "People make mistakes. You made a plan. For 6 months, you systematically betrayed everything we built together while planning to leave me for another man. That's not a mistake, Lisa. That's who you are." "What am I supposed to do now? That's not my problem anymore." I hung up and blocked her number. 20 years of marriage, and it ended with a whimper from a motel room. Friday brought the final piece of the puzzle. Miles called, his voice shaking with rage and desperation. "You destroyed my life," he said. "No, Miles, you destroyed your own life. I just documented it." "I'll fight this. I'll prove you're lying." "With what? The hotel receipts, the emails, the witness testimony from your previous victims? Good luck with that." "You think you're so smart, don't you?" "Smart enough to know that actions have consequences. You spent 6 months treating me like a fool, assuming I'd never figure out what you were doing. That was your mistake. This isn't over." "Yes, it is. You're finished, Miles. Your career is over, your reputation is destroyed, and the woman you thought you were stealing from me doesn't want anything to do with you now that you can't provide the lifestyle she expected." The silence on the other end told me I'd hit the mark. "Goodbye, Miles. Enjoy explaining this to your next employer." I hung up and deleted his number. Like Lisa, he was now part of my past. That night, I opened a bottle of expensive whiskey, the kind Lisa always said we couldn't afford, and toasted my victory. The house was quiet, clean, and entirely mine. My phone buzzed with a text from Ed. "Drinks tomorrow night? Victory celebration?" "Absolutely," I typed back. I walked through my house, looking at 20 years of shared memories that now belonged only to me. The photos of Lisa were already packed away, along with her clothes and personal items. What remained was the life I'd built, the home I'd earned, and the satisfaction of complete victory. Lisa Morrison and Miles Crawford had tried to play me for a fool, assuming the quiet IT husband would never fight back. They'd learned too late that underestimating someone is the most dangerous mistake you can make. I raised my glass to the empty house and spoke the words I'd been waiting 6 months to say, "Game over. I win." The taste of victory was sweeter than any whiskey ever made.